George Thorson, the name, and I have the honor and privilege of representing the Board of Directors at this annual event. Right now, I'm going to ask the candidates to just test your microphones. We share microphones, so it has to be in an on position. Some of them have an on and a mute. And why don't you just like tap it or say hello or something. Make sure the microphone is working.
Hi there, everybody. And this one could use a little more gain, I think. Can everybody hear this one okay? All right.
Okay, so, Joe Richard, who is our cameraman today, can you hit the start? Is it started? Okay, great. Let me welcome you, especially the candidates, for coming out on this rainy day to hear the candidates running for the Board of Directors speak about their motivation, qualifications, goals, and aspirations. The meeting's agenda is quite simple. Each candidate will have a maximum of 5 minutes to communicate with the members in attendance why they want to run for the board, what they're bringing to the table, and show their understanding of the challenges that the Lake Heritage Property Owners Association faces now and in the future. I want to quote a very well-known politician, because you're now in the world of local politics. A politician needs the ability to foretell what is going to happen tomorrow, next month, and next year, and to have the ability afterwards to explain why it didn't happen. And that was Winston Churchill. I want to thank the nomination committee, which has now morphed into the election committee, which consists of Beth Bauer, Eric Meyer, who's here today, Craig Dressa, who's down in Florida, which that's a nice place to be, Dave Malton, who's with us, and Elizabeth Gomer. Is she here today? Not. Okay. I would be remiss not to include Stephanie Ecker, our assistant community manager, who prepares all election materials, takes charge of the mailing of such materials, and participates in the collection and tallying of the ballots. I urge you to vote. It always comes as a letdown when we see the number of members who cast a vote ranges between 30 and 40%. But since you're here, I know I'm preaching to the choir. We will begin with each candidate speaking individually. As someone whose last name ends with an T, I hope you don't mind that we go in reverse alphabetical order. After the candidates speak individually, we will move on to the questions and answer part of today's program. Here are a few rules. One, come to the microphone, right over there, and state your name and lot number before you ask a question. Use the microphone. Please do not stand up where you're seated and think that everyone can hear you. There are some very mature ears in this room, mine being one of them, that really need the microphone. Okay, so use the mic. Do not ask a question or speak unless you're recognized by the chair. Once you ask your questions, sit down and listen to the response. This is not a debate. This is not a discussion. You ask the question, the candidates answer your question. Now, if a candidate's answer displeases you or leaves you unsatisfied, vote accordingly. Questions may be addressed to specific candidates, but other candidates who want to add their own answer may ask the chair for permission to do so. Usually it will just be a nod of the head. For example, a question comes up and it's addressed to Sue Heller. Okay, that's like the Three Browns. Okay, Heller, and I will automatically say, sure, please speak your piece. Do not petition to ask a second question until all the first timers get a chance. Okay, look around the room. You can ask a second question, but make sure people who have their hands up, who haven't had a chance, get their chance. Question and answer will continue until 3 o'clock and beyond if the audience and crowd shows willingness to continue. This is what is meant by a soft landing. If it's 3:10 and things are you still have a lot of questions, and the candidates are willing, and you're willing, well, I'm willing. And it's not 3 o'clock yet. Oh, that's not. Okay. Now these are local politicians now. A word of advice from Adlai Stevenson. A word of advice from Adlai Stevenson to these people. I offer my opponents a bargain. If they will stop telling lies about me, I will stop telling the truth about them. Okay. And that's about it. The candidates now can stand if they would like to give their 5 minutes of introduction. I notice I have not introduced them. They're perfectly capable of doing it themselves. Let me stop talking and hand the mic over to my very, very welcome candidates.
Well, hi everybody. How are you today? I'm Pete Vogel, and I've lived out here since 1980. I'll tell you what, even though my back will disagree, I will stand up here for a bit so you can see better. First off, before I say anything, I have to issue an apology and a correction. It's on the little blue sheet you were handed, and it was on the thing that was mailed to you, where we had, and the stuff that's on the website. I made a mistake when I talked about the amount of money that's been spent on the community center. In this, it said we spent like $72,000. I don't know if I pushed the wrong button on my computer or added something in there that wasn't supposed to be in there. It's actually more in the area of about $45,000. So let's get that cleared up right away, and I apologize for making a mistake. Now, first off, a little about me. As I mentioned, I've lived out here since 1980. I retired in 5.5 years ago. I retired from 34 years of working for the Federal Emergency Management Agency down in Emmitsburg. Some of the things that I did down there that I think would be helpful here at Lake Heritage is that I did write and manage and administer a whole bunch of contracts. A few of them were over $1 million. And not only did they provide for training, development, and delivery, they also brought in support staff, or both professional and support staff, to Emergency Management Institute where I worked. I also went out and worked disasters, and out there, Hurricane Fran, Hurricane Katrina, the Great Midwest Floods are examples of those. And at those, I did supervise staff. And other things I did with FEMA. I provided emergency response training to communities all across the United States. So that's where I really got to learn about local government and how local government works. And particularly looking at it from the emergency management side, but you can't do that unless you understand government structure, who does what. I ran FEMA's Public Information Officer training for 28 years. In fact, I'm the one who created it. And I produced a number of award-winning training videos and live television programs. And if you've ever produced a television program, you really learn a lot about management. Since retirement, I've gotten involved in local politics. I am now the communications director for the Adams County Democratic Committee. So that's what because I couldn't do that while I was working for the federal government. All right, now, what about here? What does all this mean here? Something that all politicians have been talking about, you see it and hear it all the time, is they use the term transparency. And what that really means is that the people get to know what the government is doing. Now, looking at the past, I got a password for the website, like to George, and looked at some of the budget figures from current year and past years, and I found that the boards have been making a number of decisions and spent gobs of money on things that really don't do much of anything to improve the quality of life or your property values here. And often here, I've seen this happen where the term because we are private, as used as a way to get around things that you could never possibly get around outside the Lake Heritage Gate. Why can't, one of the things I looked at is we get our little newsletters, and they have a little circle diagram saying that we spent about $450,000 on personnel. But why can't we know where that's going, who's being paid what kind of benefits are they getting? And when you ask, they say, well, we don't have, the sunshine laws don't apply to us because we're private. I think you have a right to know. I know I'd like to know. I went and asked Mike, the manager, and he wouldn't tell me because he didn't know himself. I went to the budget meeting where our treasurer, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Tom over here gave me a breakdown based on GS scales, which I'm so unfamiliar with being a federal employee, but I left 5.5 years ago. I have no idea what the current GS scales even look like now. Now, other things where we talk about money and what we spend it on. We've got, it's already 5?
4 minutes. 4.
Oh, I have 4.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, 5. But I mean, I just want to give you.
Thank you. You called on me first. I didn't have time to set my own clock here. We have a lake manager, an assistant lake manager, a security manager, an assistant security manager. That's costing us a bunch of money because a lot of those folks in particular are getting rather impressive benefits. Now, I asked around about this to a number of people who are kind of more into the board and know this kind of thing. And I was told that Kurt and Mike, Kurt, our security manager, and Mike, our lake community manager, are thinking about retiring. And they have this Stephanie there, and the guy who's the assistant security manager, I forgot his name, are there being groomed for taking over for them. And I don't think, you know, as I said, I work for the government. That's not good personnel practice. Some of the other things where privacy is used as an excuse for doing things that would be legal outside of here. The radar gun. Now, at least at the time they first got it, I don't know if the state laws changed, but the state law says that only the state police can use radar. Even local police departments can't. But we got around it because we're private. One thing I'd like us to do too, for greater transparency and greater involvement of every one of us, is to, on major expenses, major outlays of money, major hires, that we do email surveys to every member to get their opinion. The software they bought to send, where am I?
6 minutes. I eat 6 minutes.
Now, if I talk for 6 minutes or...
6 minutes and 52 seconds. Yeah.
I'm over. Okay, well, sorry. But let me just go down some other things real quick.
Oh, no. In your question.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, so I just very quickly. I want... No, okay, I'll sit down. Goodbye.
Okay.
Hi, folks. My name is... You're right under the speaker. Why don't you stand over there and just take a step back? I guess that's better. My name's Howard Hellier, and I, too, have been a resident out here for 39 years. I've been on the board before. I was on the board back in the 80s. Of course, the community back then and the community now have grown so much, and a lot of things have changed. But, you know, the properties that the lake handles hasn't increased any, just the residents out here. And I think that we need to be looking at expenditures that we're doing for the lake that we're using our money for to spend for taking care of the properties and so forth. What has caused them to go up? And a lot of it is, like Pete said, wages. But I feel that wages have been going up beyond what you and I would normally get increases with. And I think that we need to be looking at wage structures and the personnel and controlling the management, a little bit more oversight on the different departments. Things that I'm seeing that should be handled that aren't getting done. Heritage Drive, we've got a pothole out there that's been there for almost 2 weeks. And all we're doing is throwing some stone into it. And we need to have some more better management so that we could properly take care of something like that. Cleaning it out and putting some coal patch in there would make a lot of difference until the weather got better, we could replace it. Equipment that's being purchased. Is anybody really overseeing the things that are being purchased? So these are the kind of things that I'm looking at, to just try and better manage what we've got here. I'm not I was never a high-paid employee making a lot of money. I worked hard for the money that I made, but I always tried to use it wisely, and I want to do the same thing here at the lake and see that our money is used wisely. So these are some of the things that I want to see come under discretion. That's about all that I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wrote down my remarks because I have a tendency to go on, so bear with me. And I'll be sitting to read my remarks. I would like to thank everyone for coming out on this ugly Sunday afternoon to meet the candidates. I'm Sue Heller, a 12-year resident at Lake Heritage. My husband, Mike, who's sitting there in the third aisle row. And I moved here in 2005 from Frederick, Maryland. I'm a mother of 2 and grandmother of 5. I feel all of us in some manner should be willing to contribute to the community where we live, which is my reason for seeking a seat on the board of directors. I was born and raised in Frederick, Maryland, where I graduated from Frederick High and attended Frederick Community College, majoring in business. Although I never earned a formal degree, I took business management classes throughout my career. I left college to accept a position in the accounting department at the Seaboard office at State Farm Insurance. And later, I worked at Fredericktown Bank and Trust in the installment loan department before leaving the workforce to be a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. In 1985, I began my 29-year career with Frederick County Public Schools. I started as a principal secretary where I oversaw the finances of the school. Then I accepted a position in the central office as a secretary for 2 curriculum specialists for elementary visual performing arts and PE, where I managed the budgets and finances for the art, music, and PE programs for 36 elementary schools. During my last 14 years with the Board of with Frederick County Public Schools, I was the executive assistant to the executive director of facility services. The department managed the operation and maintenance for the county's 68 buildings that house a student population of 40,000, along with new construction and renovation of schools. Each year, I help compose 2 major annual reports for the school system called the Educational Facilities Master Plan and the capital improvement plan. These documents served as foundation for the yearly budget requests to the county and state governments. I also worked with easements, contractual agreements, and other legal documents pertaining to the use of school properties. After my retirement from the school system in 2014, I became a self-published author of women fiction, with my third book being released in May. I served as president of the Frederick High School Sports Boosters and both the Frederick County and Maryland Associations of Office Professionals. I was the Christian Education Chairperson on the Vestry of All Saints Episcopal Church. I'm currently a member of Gettysburg Adams Chamber of Commerce and Destination Gettysburg, along with Lake Heritage Women's Club and Fishing Club. I believe my work in finances, facilities management, school construction, and on past boards makes me a viable candidate for Lake Heritage Board of Directors. The Lake's current board invited all the candidates to a few of their recent workshops. We became acquainted with the board's current business and Lake strategic plan. The plan, which is now in the final phases of editing, is the result of 2 years of hard work by an appointed committee of neighbors that took information from a resident survey and created to make our community a better place to live. I support the plan's vision and goals that include, but not limited to, the safety of our residents, the health of our lake, and the review of regulations, and the financial well-being of the homeowners association. The plan supports my initiative to make Lake Heritage a highly sought-after community where people will want to live and raise their family, ultimately resulting in sustained and/or increased property values. Rising homeowner fees and other costs are always a concern. Unlike many HOAs, we live in a gated community that's responsible for the upkeep of a pool, lake, dam, roads, and security. The rising costs to adequately care for these types of amenities can break an organization's budget if future needs are not anticipated. I believe it is unfair and unrealistic to expect to maintain the lake's lifestyle we enjoy today on yesterday's budget. However, I do believe board members should be responsible stewards of the LHPOA monies by using good fiscal planning for future expenditures, so to keep fees at a manageable rate without reducing the quality of life. I'm just about fine. Okay. Although I support change and believe there's a room for improvement, I am also a firm believer not to waste time on reinventing the wheel. In closing, I appreciate your vote and promise to do my best to make Lake Heritage a community that you all can be proud to call home. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Kaywood, and I first moved to this neighborhood in the 80s. When my family moved here, I was in grade school. So I lived in this neighborhood grade school through high school, and then I went off to college at Penn State University, coming back here in the summertime. Graduated from Penn State. I graduated with a major in journalism and a minor in logistics. Decided that I wanted to pursue a career in logistics, and I was going to move anywhere. So I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina for my first job, and then transferred to the Chicago area. Shortly after being transferred to the Chicago area, my fiance graduated Penn State and moved out to be with me. In the Chicago area, we spent nearly 13 years there. I worked in manufacturing and distribution environments in the industry of logistics. I had 7 years experience with logistics and project management, as well as 5 years IT infrastructure management, all having responsibility with budgets and competing priorities, gaining skill sets there. Started our family while in the Chicago area, and then really come to realize that my wife's family living in Western Pennsylvania and my family living here, we were taking vacation time just to say hi to family. Started looking for jobs that would bring us back to this area with the goal of being able to drive to family within a weekend and back in the same trip. Ended up getting a job at Target Distribution Center in Chambersburg, PA, so it was a no-brainer that we wanted to move back to this neighborhood. My experience growing up in this neighborhood was something that I wanted my children to have as well. So we made the move back. My wife resigned from her teaching job out in Illinois, and we're coming up on 6 years of being back in this neighborhood, and we really enjoy it. I still work at the Target Distribution Center, managing supply chain operations for both inbound product and shipping to the 71 stores that we service. I have experience in managing budgets, relationships with vendors, our stores, as well as business partners. I've also had the opportunity to, Target is a company that's really big in volunteerism. I've had the opportunity to be a community outreach captain for the past 2 years, where I worked with organizations like the United Way, YWCA, and local schools, all through volunteer efforts. And then myself as a dad, I volunteer coach 2 of my son's sports teams. And I've just come to realize through volunteerism, I think our community can continue to, through clubs and committees, continue to volunteer within our neighborhood as both a cost savings and something to bring our community together. I also believe that I'd like to represent some of the younger families in this community with a seat on the board. My wife does work locally at the Gettysburg School District, and we truly feel this is a great place to raise our kids. I am invested in living here for the long term and really value the health of this community both now and into the future. I believe that the community, the lake, our rec areas, pool, security, and community center are all valued assets. Our community is unique to this area and offers opportunities and experiences that don't exist in nearby neighborhoods. So I believe a good mix of fiscal responsibility as well as transparency and communication to the community would really help the residents understand both strategy and costs associated with maintaining this community. With those values in mind, I hope that you consider me for being a member of the board. Thanks.
My name is Ron Brown. I want to apologize for being a few minutes late. My wife's father lives alone in down near BWI, and we take him to church every Sunday, and the fog slowed me down. Anyhow, I started we bought our house in 2014, moved in late 2015, and we've enjoyed the neighborhood very much. My son was already a member, and to put it bluntly, when we were here, my wife just retired from 30 years as a shock trauma nurse, and we moved up from Baltimore after living downtown for 40 years. So we know very much about issues of security, road, snow removal, the whole 9 yards, and what not to do. But anyhow, I come from basically a military family. I have a BA and an MBA. I work for Baltimore County. I've worked as a bureau department head for Baltimore City for 21 years. I worked for a hospital for 12, and I worked independently for 12. My main thrust was telecommunications and technology, and I ran an entire $12 million budget, awarded $25 million contract for Baltimore City, and to that degree. I was also a budget analyst looking at things, the way to do things efficiently. Anyway, my wife retired, as I said, and I have also, so while I still have health, I know this is a lake community, so we decided that maybe I should grab an oar and try to give my, share the burden of going through the items that we have to do. I've been impressed by the board and what's been done in the community. I've also seen some things that need improvement. The problem is with improvement, you must think it through because there are always unanticipated consequences. So we want to do what is right for all that are here, but everybody here is a volunteer, whether they're giving their input or whether they're on the board. And to that end, we must be able to see where we want to go and how we want to get there, and then all row together to get there. But like I said, I'm doing this before I run out of energy or time, and I do want to help because I feel it's a very, very worthwhile community, and we really love being here. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Stan Brown. I've lived in the lake here now for 4.5 years with my beautiful wife Patty and our 3 kids. We moved here from central Wisconsin, so it was a little bit of a change up for us to move to the eastern United States, and we were happy to find Gettysburg is a great place to be. When we were looking for homes, we stumbled across Lake Heritage. And, first, we rented here for about 18 months. It's all in my bio, and we decided we loved it so much. It's a great place to raise kids, and also a great place to retire or to spend your whole lifetime. Some of the issues that I've seen that have been coming up, a lot of people aren't the family members that I thought that we were moving into. It seems to have gotten to be a little bit an unworkable situation for a lot of people. Running for the board, I use, the 15 years I've worked for Haverfield Aviation. I started off as a mechanic, moved into the office as a production manager, and now I'm the director of maintenance, in charge of all the budgeting, dealing with all the personnel issues, and management of about 45 people. My management skills are a little different than probably most, and it may be part of my success or maybe not, but I'm a hands-on approach kind of guy. I like to roll my sleeves up. I want to be available for the community. I think one of the biggest disconnects that I'm seeing is we have 2 teenage boys and 1 soon-to-be. And we have a lot of people in the community that don't even know who they are, other than the kid on the bike that just zoomed by me. There's a lot of things that I want to see the community do, and that's to get back and be a community. I've come to some board meetings. It's the same 14 or 15 people at the board meetings. That's kind of unheartening to me. How do we reinvigorate the determination and drive to be in a loving, thriving community? I'm going last, so I'm not really talking about a lot of the stuff that I had prepared, because I agree with almost everybody here. The transparency, the financial decisions, and being you guys to have more of a part or say into how the direction of the lake. As a representative for everybody, I will be open for communication, phone calls. Everybody knows I live at 930 Johnson. Stop me while I'm mowing the yard. I'd love to have a few minutes to talk to you. But the hardest thing is you're asking a board to run a 1,000-home community. It takes everybody, and I'm hoping that by me being elected, I can help take down some of the bridges, some of the angst and hate that you see out there. I love this community. I love everybody that's here. We've all given sacrifices to live in this community, and I think we can all thrive well together. There are a few things that I'd like to address myself personally with the financing. I know everybody here's got a lot of good background in finance as well. I think with an open mind and being open to the community, we can make those decisions that are going to be good for us now and the future for our kids. Because I'd sure love to see my 3 boys grow up and decide to stay in this community and have them instilled at this age the core values that they need to have a community and actually be out there helping us thrive. My wife and I first moved here. We got rolled into the dog park. It just kind of came up out of the blue. We're dog lovers. Patty and I jumped on it. There's about 15 people that really drove it home. We came to the board and asked them to build a dog park, and they looked at us like we were crazy. It's never going to happen. Okay, fine. Go ahead and you can do your dog park. We raised the money in a matter of 6-8 months, and we started breaking ground and built it within 8 or 9. And that's because nobody had any preconceived judgment. We all worked together as a team. We came up with a game plan, and we executed it without changing it 1,000 times. So let's get it right the first time, talk about it, all come up with that decision and move forward and be a success in a rapid amount of time. That's what I'd like to do. So thank you very much.